Ontario's webinar series. Just so you know, this is being recorded. I press continue, Ryan, or do you have that?
You're good, Rob. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Rob Stott. I'm from the Richmond Hill Canoe Club, and I'm delighted tonight to have a conversation with Canadian canoe legend Steve Giles. Steve is from Lake Echo, Nova Scotia. He dominated the Canadian canoe landscape from 1990 to 2004. He continued a great lineage of canoers, taken over from Larry Kane, who took the torch from John Wood. And among his accomplishments are Junior World bronze medal, which he did in his hometown of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Senior World gold medal, Olympic bronze medal in Sydney, and he was a four-time Olympian. And along the way, he managed also to win the prestigious Black Trophy, although he didn't win it in the right year. And we'll maybe talk about that later. I think you're finally ready to talk about that, Stevie?
Yeah, it's
Right.
almost.
So welcome, Stevie. Like I said, this came about a bit selfishly because even though Roland Varga made the Olympics and he's from the club I coach at, we don't have a lot of canoers at the club, and there's not even a lot in the division right now. Talking with some other coaches like Doug Tuddy, there's just not a lot of canoeing happening. And I saw you presenting the Olympic jackets to Roland and Connor a couple of weeks ago, so it just got me thinking to reach out to you, and you came on right away, and Ryan was excited to have you. So here we go. So welcome, Stevie.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Right. So we'll get the ball rolling. Let's go back and where and when and why did you start paddling?
Oh boy, so that's a long time ago, right? So I started back when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, right? So right around 1980, 1981, I was at the Arenda Canoe Club out in Lake Echo, Nova Scotia. Why I started, I was following in my big brother's footsteps, right? So he went down. To be honest with you, in Lake Echo, it's as you know, it's a small town, right? And there's not a lot going on in the summer. And our parents thought, what a great thing, right? We'll send our kids to the canoe club, and we can leave them there for the day, and they'll be outside in the boats, and it'll be awesome. So Pete went first. He's 2 years older than me, and the next year I was basically just begging to go with him. And I loved it right from the start, right? It was just so fun to be outside, to be on the lake, to be in the boats. There wasn't a whole lot of training going on,
Yeah.
As you know, when you're 9, 10 years old, right? It's there's a lot of splashing and a lot of tipping, and just in general, just having fun.
Yeah. So so why did you choose C1, and like, were you aware of kind of the lineage then? I think later on, like in '84, didn't Tony have Larry Kane come and talk to you guys? And
yeah, so that was later, right? So when I'm starting out at Arenda, I had no idea, right? Like, Nova Scotia at the time, we had one club win the national championships, but really, it was a local thing, right? And we were very insulated. I remember hearing about the Canada Games, right around that time, and a couple of guys from Dartmouth had gone and done well, but I had no idea that it was even in the Olympics until a little bit later. But I remember the first time I got into my C1. I honestly remember the very first time I got into my C1.
Was it a real C1, or was it one of those like peanutty C1s?
So it was one of those old peanuts, right? So you got the skinny ones that you have today, and you got the Delta that was really from like 1960 to 2000, and then before that there was the peanut, right? And so that was what I was using. So at the time it was 40 years old probably at the time, and had been fiberglassed over 16 times just to hold it together. But I remember getting in it, and the reason I went down and tried it is because I was doing a lot of kayak at the time, but we were in a C4, and we had a pretty good C4, and I was in the back, and I was having trouble steering, and I went to my coach and said, look, how do I learn how to steer the C4, right? And he said, well, there's only one way to learn how to steer a C4. Take the C1 and learn how to steer the C1, and when you've learned how to steer the C1, then you're going to be good in the C4, right? And so I took it out, and I tipped about 15 times in the first day, but it was just...
You tipped in the peanut? Jeez.
Oh yeah, like I was my legs were all cut up from all the fiberglass on it, and crap, and
because I remember Tony saying that you'd spent like a long time in that stable C1, like because that was all you had. and you
Yeah.
just went for like miles and miles and miles for months and months and months.
Yeah. I mean, it was, it was in kind of my personality that I wasn't going to give up, right? Like,
Right.
I was going to learn how to do it. And so one of the reasons I love canoeing is because it was so difficult to do,
Yeah.
to get in and to get moving, and so rewarding when you actually accomplish that, right? First staying in the boat and then being able to go straight, and then getting into a tippier boat, and all that stuff, right? It just fed my, my competitive spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
then in '84, I remember watching Larry Kane at the Olympics and thinking, wow, this is my sport, right? My
yeah.
sport is actually at the Olympics. So here I am, a 12-year-old kid, just for the first time seeing an international race, right? And then Tony brought Larry down to the club,
Yeah.
2 weeks after he won his gold medal, and it was just like, sign my life belt, sign my paddle, sign this, sign that. Like, it was just, we were lined up for him, right? It was just fantastic.
And then, so do you think that being in that stable boat for so long helped you, and like was an important developmental process, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's balance is such a crucial part to canoeing, right? And
Yeah.
and technique, right? And so if you're so super worried about balance, then you can't worry about getting your weight forward and getting off the paddle. And
Yeah.
I like to think, maybe at some point kids should be starting on a stand-up paddleboard, right, where it's
Yeah.
super stable and you
Yeah.
got no chance of tipping. And um, I know Duncan did that a few times when he was little, and
Yeah.
now he's doing quite well
Yeah.
in C1. So
We just bought some of those this year, and we're using them all the time. So
yeah, and
it's a good intro, right?
it's a great intro because
Yeah.
there's no risk, right? Where the risk is very small.
Yeah. Yeah. So those early days at Arenda, I mean, you talk about 1984, and that was probably the first. Didn't you guys win like a midget war canoe medal that year? And
We came second in juvenile war canoe, and
yeah.
I was devastated, right? Like, I swore we were going to win the race,
Right.
and we lost to Mississauga by
Yeah.
about 10 centimeters or something, right?
I think it was
It
more
was
than that.
crazy. I don't
I
know.
think it was more than that. But
I was
anyway.
seventh on the left, so it was really hard to tell.
But didn't
But
Tony drag you up to the podium for the medal?
oh yeah,
Their shot of you, you're like really small.
I was the smallest kid in the boat, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I was seventh on the left, and I was only
Yeah.
12 years old. Like, we were pretty desperate for paddlers, right? So
Yeah. So I mean, like a pretty small club in a small community, and
yeah.
you started probably before even Tony got there, right? So
Yeah.
when I'm referring to Tony, just for people, I'm referring to Tony Hall, Stevie's longtime coach, and but then
Right.
Tony came in and got things rolling. You win a medal, and
I'm gonna just show you a picture here, Rob.
okay, here we go.
There we go. This is the Arenda Canoe Club in 1984. We're at Captain Medellin, and you see Tony on the bottom side there, and I'm right in the middle on the bottom. So
yeah,
that's the kind of club we were at, right? But
yeah, I have one of those jerseys, those baseball ones.
Yeah, they were fun.
Yeah. So you guys like progress along. I mean, a small club, you win a work canoe medal. That's a good step. And then the next year, you guys like go to Ottawa, and you break through even more. So just, I mean, talk about those years, kind of 85, like leading up to like 87 and 88 and the Burgee years. Like, what were those years like those building years when you felt like there's probably some momentum and you're like,
yeah,
got something here?
Yeah, I mean, at the time when Tony first came to the club, we were training out of a little shack, basically, right? I've seen the pictures of the Richmond Hill Club, right? And it was smaller than that, right? Like, you guys have luxury compared to what we had. And then, so one of the first things Tony did was say, we got to find some money, we got to build a better boathouse, right? And so as we're bringing in more people, and he's bringing in a few people from the city to come out and train with us,
Right.
and really just trying to build things organically too, right? Like, I remember him. We had the meetings in the spring, and he's saying, okay, we're going to start training midget war canoe, and it's April and it's snowing, and we're thinking, you're crazy, like there's no way we should be out there. But he just kept convincing us that we could do it, that we could build this thing. And you didn't care how good you were. If you wanted to come and train, like you could come and train, and he would put you in a boat, and he would make you do the best that you could, right? And so, we went to Ottawa in '85, like you said, and we won the midget boys work canoe, the only work canoe race that Arenda's ever won. 1985. I've come second and third in war canoe more times than I can count.
I meant to ask you at the beginning. Did you ever win junior war canoe?
I never won junior war
No.
canoe. No.
Well, so you're really not that good of a paddler. Like a bit of an asterisk, I would say.
I've come third several times. I believe you were.
Yeah.
You were in the
How many
back
times do you think you raced it?
Well, I mean, from 1986 to whenever I retired, almost every year we raced it.
Yeah.
Just
Wow.
couldn't break through. But yeah, so like Ottawa was great. We went 85 and everything seemed to work, right? All the crews did well, and we felt like we were unbeatable. And then we went to Toronto the next year, and it was kind of the opposite thing, right? Like, a bunch of the war canoes didn't do very well, and everybody came home kind of disappointed, right? But it's funny, you just get into that mindset where, well, I'm gonna go train, and you want to get better, and you want to work towards something, and the next year we were national champions.
Yeah, so it was like 1987.
Yeah.
Arenda Canoe Club became only the second club from the Maritimes to win a national championship in 87 years at the time of the association, and then you went on to win 3 in a row. It became a bit of a juggernaut.
Yeah.
So I mean, so in the middle of those years, in 1988 we have the infamous black race, and one of the things I remember about that year, because I happened to be at the club that year.
Yes, you did.
Coaching.
Yeah.
So it was a fun year for me, and but I remember John Wood, who was our silver medalist in 1976. He was doing the CBC broadcasting, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, Rob, I heard this hotshot kid at the club you're at this year, Stevie Giles." He goes, "I'd like to meet him and talk to him." And I said, "Okay, let me ask him." And I went over to you and asked you if you wanted to talk to John Wood and set up like an interview time. And you're just like, no. You were just so focused, and you just didn't want any part of it. I was
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
I was like, really? I was like, okay. I just thought it was kind of weird, but that's how you were, man. You were very focused. That when you were 16, then you're winning everything.
Yeah.
Except this C4 race. So the black trophy is junior C4.
Yep.
I know there's some people maybe from my club that are kind of new to the sport. So I'm explaining things to people who might not know. So it's a big hogging trophy that's very coveted.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest trophies in the country, and certainly, maybe not the most prestigious race at nationals, but the one that the most people pay attention to, right? So.
Right.
So 88, we had so there was me in the boat. I won the midget C1, and I think both juvenile C1s that year. We had Brian Burns and Glenn Gerard, who were junior world C2. Kevin Mullen, who also was a great C2 paddler with Glenn Gerard, and we were far and away the favorites in the race, right? And so we take off at the start, and it was a typical Lake Bannock day, blowing a big headwind. But we didn't make any adjustments to the boat. We didn't cover the back of the boat like Tony suggested that we did, or maybe it was you who suggested we did. I don't know, but anyway, we didn't, and we took on a lot of water. And at one point in the race, I remember watching the CBC feed of it afterwards, and you could see us come into the picture, and we went through the picture. And we got to the other side, and then the next crew comes into the picture. We were so far ahead, it was not even funny. But we got to the last 250, and I remember looking down and thinking, man, we got a lot of water in the boat. Like it was coming up, almost to the top of my block, and about 100 to go, the boat just kind of died all of a sudden, and the back went down and the front went up, and we were in the water. Let me see here. I'm gonna just share this with you. Yeah, I know it's bad.
And in those years, the Nationals was covered by CBC quite often. Oh, there it is.
Man, there it is. So here's us going down, and
wow.
and there was a series of pictures that one of the guys at the on the side had taken, and you can see the realization hitting us kind of one by one, right? So the guys in the back realize first that we're going down, and they stop, and then I realized that we're going down, but Brian in the front, he's still paddling, right?
Yeah.
And now at this point, we all know that this is it. We're going down.
Yeah.
And then of course it was the race for second place, right? But,
yeah. So the very next race after that was the senior women's war canoe. So I'm up at the start line with the senior women's.
You didn't get to see it.
I didn't get to see it. You guys passed us, and you're miles ahead. I'm like, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
I won the race 2 years before. Now I'm with these guys that are going to win it. And then,
Yeah.
but there's people coming up saying, Arenda sank. And then all the girls are freaking out, and I'm yelling at them like, of course they didn't sink. Like, think about it.
Yes,
like,
we did. We sure did. Yeah.
Focus. And so that we ended up winning War Canoe, which is great. And then coming to the dock and finding out you guys had sunk, it was just incredible. It was like couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty big disappointment, and the guys from Otterburn ended up winning, and Cartierville, sorry, yeah, Cartierville, and with Bob Kay in the boat, who had won it before in 1968, and then again in 1988.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean,
it's a good story all around.
And then you guys like easily win it the next year in Montreal, like easily. And wasn't that the CCA? You were like really sick and didn't race anything.
Yeah, I was sick, really sick.
Yeah.
For about a week leading up, and I dropped out all my races, but I wasn't dropping out of that one. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
I told the guys, you guys just drag me down the lake, and I'll do the best I can. But we're winning this trophy. So.
Yeah, winning it finally. All right, that's good. So, it took like 32 or 3 years for us to get over at Ace TV, and now
I'm still not over it. I'm still not over it.
I know. So anyway, and guys, just if you have some questions, put them in the chat box, and at the end, Ryan's going to select the best questions, and then he'll unflip your camera, and you can come on and ask Steve something face to face. But just put them in the box as you go along. So now you're go to like 1990, and you knock off Larry at the trials, I think that year. I think I got my years right.
Yep.
And then I mean, take it away from there, just how your expectations of worlds and all that stuff. And
so I'm an 18-year-old kid, and I'm going to the senior trials, and I'm thinking I'm gonna knock off Larry Kane and go to the worlds, and everything's gonna be great. I surprised myself a little bit the first time, right? And I beat him, and I don't, it was a great feeling to beat him and to be the guy who's going to the world championships, But I got into my head that. Like Larry had won a silver medal at the Worlds in 1989, right? So he was really good, and I was thinking in my head, I beat this guy. He's the second best guy in the world. Therefore, I should be able to get a medal at the World Championships, right? And so it's one of my biggest regrets is getting that into my head so early and so young, and thinking that's where I needed to be, because I went to the Worlds that year in Poznan in Poland, and thinking in my head that I was going to be one of the best guys in the race, right? And I come off the line, and I'm not anywhere close to being in the lead, and so I feel like I should start going harder and catch up to these guys, and I look up a little while later, and I'm still nowhere even close to being in the race, right? Like these guys are just way faster than me, and it's probably the only regret that I really have from canoeing is that I got about 3/4 of the way through the race, and I just quit at the World Championships, right? I put my paddle down and glided in, and I knew right away as soon as I had done it that it was stupid, and I'm letting myself down and my family down and all my teammates, and really, just whatever happens in a race, right? You got to finish hard and make yourself proud. And that was not my proudest moment. But I certainly learned from it. But it did take me a long time to get over that feeling of thinking that I should be the best, and always trying to win races and being disappointed when I wasn't winning. Right.
Yeah. So how long do you think that took to kind of work at and overcome? We got to the point where internationally you really felt you belonged. Like.
So I mean, I started feeling more like I belonged in the maybe 3-4 years later. Like I won a medal in the '93 World Championships in the 500 of all things.
Right.
One of the few times I really had to put a good 500 together. But it was really inconsistent, right? So I'd go out sometimes at the World Cups and I'd have good races. Other times I wouldn't have good races. I'd get to the World Championships, not feeling like I raced my best. In '92 at the Olympics, '96 at the Olympics, I really didn't think I had raced to my potential, which was bothering me. And one of the things that kept happening to me, and I tell this story all the time, is that I would get so nervous that I would actually get physically sick to my stomach before a race, right? So it didn't matter whether it was a trials race where I knew I could win, or if it was an Olympic final where I really wanted to win. It was always the same thing. I remember being at the Olympics in '96, and I'm carrying the boat down to the dock with Tony, and we put the boat in the water, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, there's Dittmar, and there's Bukalov, and there's Clementiev's brother was racing at the time. And all these guys who were super good, and they'd be bent over my boat, thrown up in the water, right? Like, it was just not fun. So it was kind of at that point where I decided this needs to change, right? Like, I don't want to be torturing myself just to go through the race. And so I went to see a sports psychologist. Her name is Penny Werther. She's working at the University of Calgary now.
Right.
And we worked together for a long time, and we worked hard, right? People say you got to work on your mental game. Well, it is a lot of work, right? So we would meet, and we would go over my race plan over and over and over again. And the key to the race plan for me was to pick some things that I knew I was going to be able to do, right? So for me, it was thinking about technical points in the stroke, right? So at the start, I'm going to be thinking about keeping the stroke short. As we get going, I think about transferring the weight onto the paddle, keeping my hip forward, not sitting up, not sitting back, but just keeping the momentum of the boat going, right? And those sorts of little things were the only things that I could control, right? I can't control who's going to do what, who's going to be in front, who's going to be behind, right? All those things are out of my control. And I worked on that almost every day, right? I would go in my head and think, this is my race plan, and just go through the race plan step by step for 5 or 6 minutes, and then forget about it. And so when I got to the World Championships 2 years later in 1998, right, it was like that race was in my head, right? And all of a sudden that year, what I found was I could think about other things during the race, right? So the race was so much in my head. The things that I was going to do was so much in my head that all of a sudden I could think, well, what's my strategy? Can I go a little bit harder here? Who's going faster? Who's going slower? Right. And you can start to think about those things because the stuff that I had to do was so ingrained in my subconscious. Right. And so, I remember thinking in '98, right, my head was all over the place in the race, right? But I was paddling perfectly. And just couldn't take a bad stroke because it was so much in my head.
Right. So I've seen some of your race plan kind of chicken scratch. Did you have anything dug up for us tonight? I don't know. You put it out somewhere.
It's on Twitter if you can find it on Twitter. I'm not sure where I ended up storing it.
Yeah, maybe that's where I saw it not that long ago. It was pretty cool. Like just you're basically just writing out your race plan, but it was handwritten and it was messy, but it was,
exactly right. And it's all about what's the big circle? The big circle is the things that are out of control, and the small circle is the things that you can't control, right? And so keep yourself in that small circle, and everything will work out. And and not only did I start racing better, but I stopped throwing up before the race, which was much more enjoyable overall.
So it took you till 1998 to stop. So the last 6 years of your international career, you were throw up free?
I was throw up free, yeah, pretty much.
That's good. So, I mean, it'd be interesting if you could tweet that out again or something, or
or
whatever. Like it'd be cool for people to see that again.
Yeah.
But in your 1,000 meter was, you raced both 500 and 1,000, but your most success in 1,000, longer race, and more of need of a plan in some respects. But you mentioned a little bit just about running different things and also being a little bit aware of what your competitors were doing. So how much did your awareness of where their place was affect what you're doing strategically?
Well, it was
do you ignore where they are at your peril, kind of?
Yeah, a little bit, right? So what I realized over the years when I started having some real success is that you've got to go harder than you think you can. right? And so a lot of times I'll watch guys racing, and they've got a really good finish, and their last 250 is awesome. And when they're racing against people who maybe aren't the best in the world, it looks fantastic. But when you get into a race where everybody's going at world championship speed, right? If you're not going at world championship speed for the first 3/4 of the race, it doesn't matter how fast your last 250 is, you're not going to catch up, right? So you've got to be able to put yourself in that position to win the race, right?
Right.
And that means being willing to take that pain and to get yourself there, and to pay attention to who's doing what. Actually, I'm gonna show a quick video. Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah, go for it. Of
All right,
course.
here I'm gonna.
Oh, we're back to that.
Back to that. Yeah, I know it's not good. I can't see what I'm doing here. This is what I want to show. All right, so this is my race from Sydney. It's in Dutch or something, so I'm going to mute the volume.
Okay.
So I'm up on the top here on the third from the top. Right, but what I want to show you is this. So this is just after the start, right? And there's Opalev, and he's going like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And he just keeps going, and so I'm back here, and I was aware enough of what was going on that I didn't want to go with him at that point,
Right.
So you've got to you want to go harder, but you've got to be aware of who's going hard, right? So knowing who he is and what he's going to do, you can sort of sit back for a little while, right? And so he goes through here, and yeah, of course we're reeling him in, and eventually he just completely chokes out, right? And ends up coming. And there's Dittmar, there's me. And if you watch him here, this is the point here.
Yeah.
1, 2, and then he's going to look over. Oh, and that's it. Right now he's done.
Yeah.
And then everybody just goes by him, right?
And who's the other guy there at the right?
So this is the Cuban here.
Okay.
In lane 4, lane 3, 5. I don't know what it was.
Wow.
So yeah, so I mean, you got to be aware of what's going on, and who's coming, and who's in what position, right? Because if I'd tried to go with him, then I would have been toast in that race for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
But you certainly were aware of who he was. He was more of a sprinter. He'd probably done that before, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that was how did you compare that race to your 98 race?
I think the 98 race was better. And not just because I won the race, but it was more of a perfect race, more of a complete race for me. There were times in that Sydney race where I didn't feel like the boat was moving as well as it should, and a little bit of doubt kind of crept in my mind. Like, can I actually keep up with these guys or not? It was my third Olympics, and I wasn't sure at the time if I would be able to go back for a fourth one, and so I was looking at it really as my last kick at the can. And I remember thinking halfway through the race, like, this is it, right? I'm not gonna win a medal this time again, and I'm gonna be really disappointed. But it was like a switch flipped in my head, and I thought, like, you know what, like, I don't care, right? I'm gonna finish this race. I'm gonna be proud of myself for whatever comes of it, and whether it's a medal or whether it's just me finishing fifth, like, I'm gonna do this, right, just for myself. And it worked out. And I didn't even know, when I crossed the line, I wasn't even sure that I was going to get that medal, right? I was listening for the beeps as you cross the line, right? I knew Dittmar was ahead, and he went beep, and then the Cuban went beep, and then I shot the boat, and there it was, the third beep. So it was good.
Yeah, so it was obviously a very good race. You win a bronze medal at the Olympics, maybe not as good as your 98 gold medal at the Worlds, but the moment must have felt bigger. Like I remember you getting on the podium and you like jumped on the podium. I was hoping you had some video of that. I remember,
Yeah.
I remember you jumped up. It was like it was almost uncharacteristic of you in a way. Like you're kind of like you're pumped up. It was.
I was pretty pumped. It was funny.
Yeah.
We were watching at the at our training house before the competition. We were watching the Olympics every day, right? And somebody came on. I don't know who it was, and they won like a bronze medal, and they were like all kind of head down and looking like they were pissed off, and everybody's like, "Oh man, like I wish I could win a bronze medal." I said, "If I win a bronze medal, I'm doing cartwheels onto the podium.
Yeah.
Right? I can't do a cartwheel to save my life." So so I didn't do a cartwheel, but I certainly, I thought I should show my emotion and show that I was happy.
Yeah.
But you know what the funny thing is, right? And I'm sure every athlete will say the same thing. Like I was really happy to get that bronze medal. Again, I'm standing on the podium, I have that medal around my neck, and I'm thinking, man, this is great, right? But then I look over, to Dittmar, and I'm like, geez, I really wish I won the gold medal, right? Like, so there's always the next thing, right? Like no matter what it is, there's always the next thing.
Right. So, I mean, I always kind of wondered why, I mean, your success came, later in your career, but the mental stuff you talked about before, probably was a big factor, right?
Yeah. And I give a lot of credit to my wife as well. She's gone to bed, so she can't even hear me saying this. But, it was, when we met, like things kind of settled down for me, and got some focus and realized that there was a bigger world than just me in my boat, right? And that no matter what happened, that life was going to go on, and we were going to be together, and it really kind of put things in perspective, right? Which is important, because when you're an athlete, and people treat you like you're the best, and they're always pampering you and giving you everything you need. You kind of forget sometimes that there's another world out there outside of sport.
Yeah. So what do you think would be your top 2 or 3 attributes that kind of carried the day, that made you a successful paddler you were?
Well, I mean, my technique was really good. I think
we're gonna look at some video, right? You agreed to that?
If you've got some, yeah.
I got some, yeah.
Yeah.
Not of you though.
No, that's good. That's good. My hair back in those days wasn't as good.
Yeah, you're always a good technician. I mean,
always a good technician, right?
Yeah.
So I raced against guys who were 6'5" and 220 pounds, who were obviously stronger than me, that I could beat. So the reason I was a good technician is because I thought about things a lot, right? So always thinking about how to go faster, always trying to think of every day on the water, trying to paddle as well as I can, right? So I heard somebody say once, if you go out and take 1,000 strokes and they're not good strokes, then all you're teaching yourself is how to paddle badly, right? So if you can go out there for 10 kilometers and paddle well for 10 kilometers, then that's great. But if you can't, then maybe you need to take a break and get back into it and get yourself paddling well. I did a lot of training against guys who were older than me, and the only way that I could beat them was to paddle better than them, and so that kind of got ingrained in me at a fairly young age.
That's one technique. What else?
Yep. The other thing I think is just being willing to take the pain, right? And not just in the race, but every day in training, right? So being willing to go out there, day after day, workout after workout, and just know that things are going to hurt. Your lungs are going to burn. You're going to feel like you're going too hard, and you just do it, and you get over it, and you go back out and do it again, right? And that's being willing to take that kind of pain is important.
Right, technique, pain. Do you have a third one? You can be non-technical, and you can't talk about your muscular physique either.
I'll never forget that there was an article in the paper at the '92 Olympics when I was there, and the guy said that I looked like Don Knotts at Muscle Beach. Right? Most everyone's probably too young to remember who Don Knotts is, but it was I like that one. Yeah, no, I mean, I think just in general, I like to win. I'm pretty competitive about anything. You know, whether it's a workout or whether it's um, like a race, right? I always want to go out and do the best I can
Yeah.
and try and win, right? Um, so that's important too.
Okay. Great. Let's look at some technique.
All right,
Here's a young lad from our club.
nice.
Our only other canoer other than Roland. This is our last paddle of the year last year. There's a little snow on the ground. So I'm just gonna run it through here a bit, Stevie, and you can
All right,
just
man.
tell us what you see and what you'd like to. Oh, we got through that fast.
The video is a bit choppy for me, but we'll watch it through again here.
Is it?
Yeah, it looks pretty good, man. I would say, you know, the catch is good. I think if you can get a little more pressure on that top hand and sit up a little quicker. You see right at the end there, you've got the back leg is angled back a little bit, right? So you want to make sure that when that paddle comes out of the water, you got your hips pushed forward, and you're trying to move on to the next stroke.
Yeah.
That looks really good at the front. And then now just sit up, push the hip forward, and away you go.
So when should that right hip be thinking about coming forward?
So you pull, and then as soon as you've pulled, so right here where your hands right around your front foot, right? So now your right hip should start coming forward, and your shoulders should come up. I like the shoulders coming up.
Yeah.
You just get that hip underneath.
Yeah, so it's pretty common. I mean, that's what I always took from you was like, you know, bring the hip forward sooner and while the paddle's still in the water. So like even this is too late because the paddle's in the water, but not in a meaningful way.
Yep.
It's ready to come out. So
yeah, and it always feels funny when you're going slow, but you know you've got to learn how to you push the paddle forward before the paddle comes out of the push the hip forward before the paddle comes out of the water. So the two things are coming together, right? So the hip's coming forward, the paddle's coming back, and you kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And that way you carry forward that momentum from one stroke, you carry it forward into the next.
Yeah. And what I mean, you said that you're working on technique all the time. Every workout was a technical workout, and that
Yep.
you even carry that into races, like just being super aware how you're moving the boat while you're going at race speed.
And like when I work on technique, it's mostly at the exit, right? The exit is the critical part for me. Like if you can get the exit right, then it almost automatically sets up the catch for you, right? Because your body's moving forward, your arms are moving forward, you're going to end up in the right position, right? You just get your weight over onto the paddle. And then, so a lot of times what I would do is just go really slow, put my paddle in just right around my front foot and just push the hip forward. So no backwards motion with the hip at all, just frontwards motion, trying to get that feeling of the hip and the paddle closing up together.
Okay, good. All right. You see that, Conrad? You listening, buddy? Okay.
That looks pretty good.
All right.
You know, and cold weather paddling is always a little dicey too, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to show everyone how hardcore he was paddling in the
snow. I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So Ryan, we're getting close to question time. So have you surveyed the field here? There's been quite a few coming in, but have you picked anyone to come on live?
Yeah, I think it's a testament to having Steve on. We have more questions than we normally do on these, so bear with me if I don't get to it. I actually, before we go to the questions, we have another great on Thomas Bodai Sr.
Yeah.
I saw him there. I
saw that,
saw the
yeah.
video. Hey,
Hey,
Thomas.
Thomas.
is sitting in his repair room right now. I can tell, and I think he's repairing a boat that I gave him today. So, Thomas, for those who don't know,
it is ready. You can go for it now.
Thank you, Thomas. Two-time Olympic medalist and national team coach for 25 years, and worked with Stevie a lot. So, Thomas, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I just would like to introduce from another aspect Stevie, that he did the university parallel with the paddling career, and many guys could see him as a sample, because he never put aside the studies for the sake of the training. So he was up 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, did his workout, and after went to university, and he's the guy who showed that it's possible to do. Today athletes less and less do it, and they choose either, but rare that both of this important part of their life they can manage to do together. And another thing, when Rob asked the 3 important things which contributed in Stevie's success, I think he may not realize, but he have a excellent metabolism. Maybe not huge muscles, but the restitution was the fastest always, and he get back in a relative hard load after the relative hard load to the resting position. I know because Attila and Thomas, my 2 sons, was training, and I checked always the heart rate after each load, and it showed that Stevie's almost twice as quicker restituted. So get back to the normal. Well, Tommy and Attila's pulse was still really high, and that is one of his talent.
Yeah.
Beside that, work hard.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, Thomas, and that's a good point about going to school and training, right? So, there were a lot of sacrifice years where like Thomas said, when my daughter Macy was born, I was still training for 2 years, and so the Atlantic Sports Center gave me some money to build a gym in my basement, and so I would. Like Thomas said, I would do my workout at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd go up and tend to the kid, and get her all settled, and then I'd get off to school for 8 hours to do my engineering degree, and come back and train again in the afternoon, right? And you just get to the point where you've got 2 conflicting goals, and I wasn't willing to give up one of them for the sake of the other. So
yeah, the family is the third one, which is also
three goals, right? So
I just want to ask, is Macy and Duncan still involved in canoeing?
Macy's coaching at Canoe, so she's in charge of the kids' day program. Duncan's still paddling. He's 15, and he paddles C1. So
in a Canoe.
Yep.
Great. Yeah. Good coach there, Rob Bauer.
Yeah. Rob does a good job.
Thank you, Thomas. It's actually a great segue. So we had a question on that, life balance, Steve, in terms of tremendous athletic, academic, and then family life. Any tips on how to manage that?
Yeah, you just got to be committed, right? Like, you've got goals that you want to achieve, and you've got things that need to get done in order to achieve those goals, right? So if it's school, you have to understand that if you want to do well at school, then that's going to mean you can't put off doing your homework, right? It's really very simple, but it's really very hard to do, right? So when I remember being in Florida, having a stack of books of high school that I had to do for homework that I had to do for high school, and other people going to the beach and me staying home and doing my math homework, right? And you just have to force yourself to do those kinds of things if you want to balance that life. The other thing I realized too is that I wanted to have a long canoeing career. I didn't stop paddling until I was 32. Right? If I had waited till I was 32 to finish my education or to get a real job, right, then by the time I finished university, I'd be almost 40, and life. Everyone knows life is over when you're 40, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Steve. There were a lot of questions on mental performance. How do you prepare for the race? And I think you answered quite a few on that. I'm going to throw a little bit curveball. Seeing the Olympics right now and what's going on, and Simone Biles pulling out at least of the gymnastics team event and possibly the entire competition due to mental health or mental wellness. I think you've talked about it a little bit, but that level that plays into athletes and the importance of that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a vastly underrated part of training and often neglected part of training, right? And not necessarily by the top athletes in the world. I think these days, the people who are winning medals at the Olympics, they all kind of understand what needs to go into that mental preparation, right? But we worked hard on it, and I don't know the specific situations of anybody, but I do know that every race I ever went to, every competition I ever went to, I had a series of goals, right? So there was my dream goal, like this is what I would love to achieve, right? And my realistic goal, like this is what I think I probably can achieve this just by doing the things that I can do best, right? And then at the bottom there's the goal, if everything goes wrong, this is what I want to be able to achieve, right? And so I think having those things to kind of set yourself up, it may give you the ability to be happy with yourself no matter what happens, right? But I think people talk about mental toughness like it can be achieved on the day, right? So like mental toughness isn't like what you think of. You got the Green Bay Packers playing on the frozen football field, and these guys are super mentally tough because they're out there in the freezing cold on that one day playing football, right? But you can't just turn on mental toughness, right? So if you want to be mentally tough in the last 250 meters of your 1,000-meter race, right, you've got to be working on that for 4 years leading into that race, right? You can't just say I'm going to be tough today and expect it to work, right? It's another part of training that you've got to do all the time.
Ryan, I like Ella's question about this is Hodgson-Pajot, Ella Hodgson-Pajot.
Oh yeah.
So you
I know the Hodgsons and the Pajots.
That's right. So her question was, how do you deal with unfavorable winds on race day? Because I remember even when you were young, you were probably one of the best paddlers I saw in side winds. Like you're a left, so in a right wind, it didn't seem to phase you.
Yeah.
You managed to keep going. So
I think it's a mental thing and it's a physical thing, right? So part of it is just practicing on the lake, right? So Rob, in Nova Scotia, we get the winds all the time, right? Yeah. So waiting for a nice fair day on Lake Bannock is like waiting for, I don't know, Christmas in July or something, right? It's just not going to happen. And so you kind of prepare yourself to say, well, it's windy today. I got to get out and I got to practice in the wind because it's going to be like this on race day. Now, having said that, right, there are things you can do to make that go a little easier on you, right? So when it's a crosswind, you gotta keep your stroke rate up. You gotta keep the boat moving. Once the boat starts to die, then it's even harder to keep it straight. You get a good strong catch. You get the stroke rate a little higher than you normally would, and you just try and get the paddle out of the water at the back of the boat and move on to the next stroke, right? Because when the paddle's in the water, then the boat's going straight. It's only when the paddle comes out that the wind starts to take you in and make you wonky. Every time someone asks me about the wind, I always go back to the 2000 Olympics, right? So I raced C1 on the first day of finals, and it was almost a perfect day, right? It was a little bit of a right wind, but really nothing to speak of. The very next day for the 500 meter finals, the waves were 3 feet high in a headwind, right? And there were several people that just did not mentally deal well with that kind of wind, and the ones that could go out there and say, well, I'm gonna power through it. The race is going to be 30 seconds longer, and I'm gonna win the gold medal, right? And the Kolinic won the gold medal in the C1 that year, and just by powering through and being willing to take the win, right? So you got to be prepared for it. You got to just know it's coming and love the wind.
Yeah, love the wind.
Okay. I'm going to pronounce the name wrong. My apologies, but Arenda, you had a bunch of great questions. Maybe if you could come on and ask your number one burning topic you want to ask, Steve.
So wait, can anybody hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so my biggest question, which is kind of weird, but did you develop like spatial awareness and a way to find out like where the other competitors were in your race when you were in that race? Because like you talked about how you're a really analytical person, so like did you find out a way to kind of know where all your other competitors were and like know like who is the person that who is your biggest like competition to get to a place that is like reasonable enough for you to place, and like how much did you take your own technique into that and try to like how did all of that correlate, if you kind of get what I'm saying? Sorry.
That's a really good question. That's a great question. So part of that just develops over lots and lots of different races, and training with lots and lots of different people, right? So you tend to get a feeling for, am I ahead of this person next to me, or am I behind this person next to me? But more important than that, you get to have a feeling of, am I moving faster than this person next to me, right? So if they're ahead of me and I can feel like I'm moving faster than them, then I know that I've got that person beat. The really tricky part comes when you've got people like, say, for example, at the Olympics in 2000, I was in lane 3, way over on the left-hand side of the course. And so I couldn't really see everything that was happening 6 lanes over, right? And as soon as I turned my head to look, I knew I might lose my balance, I might throw myself off a little bit. So you can't turn your head to look, but you just kind of see out the sides of your eyes, and be okay with the fact that you might not necessarily know everything about what's going on, unless you're winning. Because if you're winning, then you don't see anybody, right? And so that's always the goal, is to get to the point where everybody kind of disappears from your peripheral vision, and you can go. And so it took me a long time before I was really comfortable with even paying any attention to that at all that was going on, right? I kept thinking in my head, well, if I want to do well, I have to focus only on myself and only in my own lane, and think about my technique and just do my own race no matter what, right? And I needed to get to a point, like I said, where my race was so ingrained in my head that I didn't have to think about it anymore. And then I could start looking a little bit side to side and changing my race a little bit to try and beat people during that race, right? And that's when racing actually becomes fun. It becomes not just paddling as fast as you can, but actually racing, right? So I hope that answers most of your question. That was a really good question, though. Thank you.
Thanks.
first time anybody's ever asked me that.
Amazing. It's been a long career without asking that. Great. Thank you. I'm going to put a call on Abby. Abby had a bunch of great questions too. But Abby, if you could come on and pick your best question for Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. My question was, how many DQs have you gotten in like your whole career?
There's only one that I can remember. The only one that I can remember, but I remember it like I remember it big time, right? I was racing. It was my very first nationals in C1. It was in Toronto, and I was racing 500 C1, midget C1, 500 meters, and they only had buoys every 100 meters.
Yeah, it was
right? So the buoys are really spread out. And so I remember coming off the line with my head down, going as hard as I could, and then I looked up, and you know, when the buoys are really spread out, right? Like there's lanes kind of going this way if you look this way, but then if you look this way, you can sort of trick yourself into thinking there's another lane over there. So I chose the wrong direction, and the umpire was behind me, and he kept saying like, turn left, turn left, turn left. And I was like, I'm going to my lane. I'm going to my lane. You don't know what you're talking about. And then he told me to stop paddling, and then that was it. So that was my first nationals, disqualified out of my lane. It was not good.
Oh,
Not good.
wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, I think 7 of the war canoes were re-raced.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, I was in every single one of them, I think.
Yeah.
I think the message is we have to listen to the officials on that one. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're telling you to go left, then you should probably go left, right? But you know, my biggest message there is put your head up and look where you're going, and because if you get your head down and you start trying to find your way afterwards, then it'll never work, right? So always be looking at the next buoy.
Amazing. See, Steve, I'm going to finish off with one more question that was in the queue. What would you tell someone that wants to go to the Olympics, that wants to put in the time, the effort, and maybe at a young age? What would be your message to that person?
I'd say find yourself a good coach, and just be willing to put in the work, right? And know that it's a long road. I've seen lots of guys who were really good when they're 13, 14, 15 years old who don't want to put in the work, and so don't ever become great athletes. And I've seen other guys who aren't that good when they're 13, 14, 15, and they're willing to put in the work, and they improve, and they get to where they want to go. So when I say you got to be willing to put in the work, right? It's twice a day on the water. You're paddling, you're running, you're doing the swimming in the winter, you're doing the weights, everything, right? It's a full-time job if you want to get to that top level, right? But you gotta believe in yourself, and you gotta be willing to put that goal out there, and to just do everything that you can to get to where you want to be.
Okay, Rob, realizing it's 10:30 in Nova Scotia, I 10:29, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, well, I think we're done. So thank you everyone for coming on. Stevie, thanks so much for coming on. That was pretty easy, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Good to reminisce, and I learned a few things too. So it's good.
Anytime.
Race plan.
Yep. Yeah, and anybody wants to contact me, I'm on Twitter. On Instagram.
I've already had
I'm
Lisa Racine just messaged me asking me for your email. So
very good.
She's gonna be badgering you about canoe technique and stuff. So
I'm old school though, right? I'm the old school technique.
That's okay.
Hi Lisa, how are you?
There she is. All right, so good night everyone. Thank you. Stevie, again, thanks a lot.
Thanks guys, and we look forward to seeing Roland and Connor race next week, right?
Everybody's get up and watch. That's right. Yeah, let's go.
Thank you, everyone. Go Canada.
All right, see you guys.
All right.
Thanks, TV.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks.
See you, Thomas.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Salut.
Good night.
See you, Rob.